Prime Minister Mia Motley makes a major statement to Barbadians. Efforts to make it easier for people to conduct business with banks and other financial institutions. Work progressing on a new multi-million-dollar commercial complex at Welches, St. Thomas. And in sports, all 4 athletes on Team Barbados are in Europe ahead of Paris 2024.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. We start with good news for customers of commercial banks in Barbados. Those financial institutions now have to follow a new set of rules to ensure they provide the best service to their clients. These guidelines include opening and closing accounts. The mandatory Central Bank of Barbados Market Conduct Guidelines, which came into effect last Friday, was officially launched today. It addresses 5 areas, which also includes customer complaints. Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Kevin Greenwich, explains the toolkit speaks to the licenses under the Central Bank. He says consultations were conducted before a draft bill was created, and those with disabilities were also included.
Anything that brings greater transparency, allow you to have more persons wanting to partake in the game. You shy away when you think, one, I'm not sure what's going on, this is not clear. Anything can be charged against me, here, you're going to stay away. Anything that brings fairness, you say, okay, I understand where you're coming from as an institution, you have to make a reasonable return, and I recognize I got to pay for service, and it's reasonable. You think it's fair, you will participate. So anything that increases transparency and fairness within the financial market, will see an increase in participation.
A phased approach will be adopted on a case-by-case basis for those banking institutions that now have to implement aspects of the guidelines. Senior Director with responsibility for bank supervision, Cheryl Greenwich, urges customers to fully exhaust all avenues in respect to disputes. She says they should send as much details to her department so that when they engage with the financial institution, they can do so from an informed position. However, she's made it clear once legal action is taken, the Central Bank will not intervene.
Of course, if that is not resolved to the customer's satisfaction, then they can approach the Central Bank. We have for some time been dealing with complaints that do come to the department, so we, in a way, try to intermediate between the customer and the financial institution, and the same approach will be taken when it comes to issues relating to the market conduct guideline.
Well, customers are urged to visit the bank's website to get all relevant information. A multi-million-dollar commercial complex is set to open its doors later this year. Word of this from project manager of the Welches commercial complex, Justin Oran. Trevor Thorpe reports.
The $50 million project, conceptualized 14 years ago, is to be a large-scale retail park catering to diverse needs and tastes. Project manager Justin Oran says it sits on 8 acres of land.
The entire project is over 200,000 square feet, composing of 7 buildings, over 500 car park spaces. 4 of those buildings will be delivered to tenants at the beginning of August of this year, with opening to the public, hopefully by November. The 5th building is going to be delivered in 2025, and the last 2 buildings, which have been earmarked for healthcare infrastructure, will be delivered in 2026.
The building also has a green component.
Between EPD and Town and Country Planning, they designed a drainage system composing of 16 wells and 8 storage tanks that will feed the project with rainwater. So all the bathrooms will flush via rainwater, all the irrigation will be via rainwater, and what that will do as well is relieve the area of some of the drainage problems and flooding problems it had in the past. There will also be a solar component, hopefully, and that will have the capacity to generate 1.5 megawatts of power once online.
Engineer Joe Steinbach says work is on target.
This is the first one where the developers have really put a lot of time and effort into going into the green aspect of it and going into, PV seriously, utilizing their water. So, you know, it's been good in that area. And again, it's not always that you can convince your clients that to take the time and get their design sorted out before they break ground.
Phase 2 of the Welches development of 100,000 square feet is already in the works and will be ready in 2026. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
Barbados is hoping to develop new ways to take advantage of its expansive ocean space to benefit the country now and in the future. It's doing so as efforts continue to draft the Barbados Marine Spatial Plan. Director of the Coastal Zone Management Unit, Dr. Leo Brewster, says it will go beyond traditional activities such as swimming, water sports and fishing.
We continually hear of the opportunities for offshore oil and gas because we have some potentially significant reserves located in the deep. We also have to look at the means by which marine traffic use our space. We have to look also at activities that could lead to better management, surveillance, and security and enforcement of our economic zone from activities such as illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. We also have to look at new opportunities where marine renewable energy can come to prominence and help try to reduce our present electricity budget, etc.
Dr. Brewster says they're now preparing to receive submissions from the public as they recognize the importance of stakeholder involvement. He adds young people are among the stakeholder groups being engaged.
So we've been out to 20 primary schools right now over the last about 8 weeks. We've also been having lectures and interactive sessions with higher level institutions. We've worked on a program between the MSP, the ILO, and community college to work in developing a program for beach managers at the National Conservation Commission, which is about to roll out later this month or by early August.
Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw says a new plan will be put in place to prevent further incidents like the one that occurred at a northern primary school. Officials of the Ministry of Education held a meeting today with stakeholders of the institution following a viral video showing a number of primary school-aged children dancing in an inappropriate manner. Dr. Archer Bradshaw says the ministry will continue to work with all in this regard.
The ministry is satisfied with the plan that will be put in place to prevent future occurrences like these on school property. I use the opportunity to commend the principal and team for being proactive in this situation. As soon as it came to her attention, she began to address it. The ministry will continue to lend its support by providing counseling for the children and their parents.
And at least one teachers' union has condemned the inappropriate behavior. President of the Barbados Union of Teachers, Rudy Lovell, describes the video as unfortunate and calls on parents to advise their children on what is appropriate behavior going forward.
Teachers condemns this type of conduct and hopes the students involved will receive the necessary counseling to prevent future occurrences. The BUT will investigate the matter. In addition, we are confident that the Ministry of Education, after carrying out its investigation, will address relevant parties regarding their findings. In the meantime, parents are encouraged to reinforce in their children what is appropriate and acceptable behavior.
80 male students who are about to enter secondary school will benefit from this year's BABS Reading Clinic. Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw is encouraging the children who will be receiving free instruction in reading skills and techniques, team building exercise and counseling to put what they learn into practice. Ms. Archer Bradshaw addressed the opening ceremony of the clinic, which will be held at the Barbados Community College over the next 5 weeks.
Whether it's your favorite book or a comic or even instructions for building or creating your next masterpiece, the more you practice, the more comfortable and skilled you will become at reading. Parents and tutors, as I said before, you play a vital role in helping these boys develop their reading skills. praise and encourage them.
Meanwhile, founder of the Reading Clinic, Dr. Astra Babb, is extending gratitude to the Sandy Lane Charitable Trust, the Maria Holden Memorial Trust, Scotiabank Barbados, and the Barbados Community College for helping to sponsor the initiative. Dr. Babb stresses the teaching of reading is a specialized area which, if misunderstood, can lead to serious damage to a student and inhibit their learning capacity.
Since reading is integrated into all the other subjects taught at school, if the reading disability is not correctly diagnosed and treated, some children will leave school uneducated and later become uneducated parents. Some of these uneducated young people will engage in any number of nefarious acts to make a living.
As the 2024 crop over season heats up, road safety advocate Roland Lowe is pleading with party goers who plan on consuming alcoholic beverages to have a designated driver. Mr. Lowe, president of the Barbados Road Safety Association, tells CBC News it's important that people follow his advice to avoid road accidents and fatalities this crop over season and beyond.
Not only a responsibility for your own self, but for other persons on the road as well, because then you become inebriated and then driving the vehicle. It might not be you who loses their life, but then become involved in an accident or collision with another vehicle, and then somebody else might lose their life. So it's a responsibility not just for yourself, but for other road users as well.
While Barbados recorded its 11th road fatality for the year last Saturday, Mr. Lowe says he believes Barbadians generally obey road rules. He says road users who do not follow rules and regulations need to start doing so.
In terms of utilizing the roundabouts, that's something that I guess people hear me mentioning all the time because it's one of my pet peeves, I guess. Persons changing lanes at the mouth of the roundabout. That's something that you don't want to see because that's something that can cause accidents on the road. Not adhering to the speed limits, that's one tool. You don't want you going above the speed limit. Speed limits are there for a reason because you go above the speed limit, it's more difficult for you to control your vehicle. And the speed limits are different, something that we need to mention to it because I don't think that everybody knows it. The speed limit is different for motor cars as compared to trucks.
Coming up, a statement from Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley. Relatives and friends of Anthony Coward, who have vowed to continue the search for the missing man. Over 30 people spent several hours yesterday combing the community of Chimborazo, St. Joseph and the surrounding areas, but found no trace of him. The 71-year-old retired educator of Airy Hill, St. Joseph, reportedly left home about 12 noon on Friday the 5th and has not been seen since. Speaking to CBC News yesterday, his ex-wife, Shirlene, appealed for the public's help in locating Mr. Coward, who she says is showing signs of dementia. Mr. Coward is about 5 feet 7 inches tall, slim build, with a dark complexion and short grey hair. He was last seen walking in the direction of Lammings, St. Joseph, wearing a white polo shirt, a dark pants and slippers. Another 60 Barbadian students will get an opportunity to study with the prestigious Delaware State University. The university, which has partnered with the Barbados Community College, is preparing to take in a second cohort of students in August. On completion, students will gain a bachelor's degree in agricultural science or mathematics. Course manager with the BCC, Mark Griffith, explains who can apply.
So it's mainly agricultural science, but those who are interested in mathematics can also apply. They can be students who are just coming out of fifth form at secondary. They could be students who have already gained associate degrees. But even if they are coming from fifth form, they will be submitting their profiles because CHC results are not back as yet. So they can still apply at this point in time, even though, their results are not back. And their profiles, their secondary school profiles will be very useful.
Representatives from Delaware State University will be on hand during an open day at the BCC's campus from 5 in the afternoon tomorrow for interested people. Well, as we told you earlier, we have a special message from Prime Minister Mia Amor-Mottley. She's making an important statement to the nation on crime.
Good evening, everyone. Yesterday morning, I woke up and decided to do something that I don't normally do. I wrote down my thoughts that I wanted to share with you today. In this conversation, I do not want in any way for any word to be misplaced or indeed for anything to be omitted. I have already spoken to you about the role that law enforcement in this country must play in curbing the surge of violence, about the additional resources and approaches taken by the police service, and about the legislative changes that we must bring to increase the efficiency of our court systems, and indeed to modernize our criminal justice system, which is caught in a 19th, 20th century position. We will continue to speak to you on these issues as we must. But today, my friends, this is a conversation with Bajans and all who live here and who love our country as if it were their own. This country of ours is great because when it has mattered most, we have always come together to confront and rise above challenges. We have done so throughout our history and certainly in my time as leader. We've saved our way of life by saving our dollar. And we saved lives and livelihoods as we fought to overcome the personal and societal dread of COVID-19. We have grown stronger to fight this new reality of ours, this climate crisis. And we will continue to work together to become even more resilient because we're not where we need to be to fight that battle. But my friends, we must now come together again to confront the tendency towards violence in this country. A violence driven by anger very often and the inability or unwillingness to resolve conflicts peacefully. We face the scourge of greed and gangs fighting for dominance and territory, and we're seeing a rise in incidents equally of mental and physical abuse. The mental health challenges have been compounded, especially since COVID brought the restrictions on movement and individual choices. You remember, indeed, from the same room I addressed you many times. These matters are made worse by other issues that we must consciously control as leaders, wherever we are, whether as parents or guardians and godparents, or indeed extended family or neighbors, friends, employers, members of the community, sporting or cultural groups in which we interact. And we must do so whether in our homes, our place of work, or businesses. And indeed, we must do so where we worship, in our churches, our mosques, our temples, wherever we go for religious or spiritual worship. We must immediately address the absence of religious and moral grounding of our children. We have talked about it for too long without serious progress. We must teach them, and they must learn, the basic difference between right and wrong, and the need to respect human life, their own lives, and indeed that of others. We need to control the inappropriate use of social media to circulate memes that hurl insults, or share videos that denigrate groups like young women, young girls, or promote the attraction of guns, or indeed the sending of direct messages to issue threats and to deliberately generate fake news, news that we know to be fake. We must monitor and balance the excessive screen time and exposure to violent content. This nation's children are being desensitized to violence through the non-stop playing of video games and the overuse and misuse of social media, through the cartoons that they're watching in some instances. It is interesting that it is called social media, as it quite often leads to antisocial behavior, and this is now being recognized the world over. This overexposure desensitizes not only the children, but indeed some of the parents to the presence of guns and killing. Our children, my friends, are spending hours on these devices, pausing only to eat and to drink and returning to the games where they have been killed multiple times for the day already and they're still playing. And after a while, what happens? Killing means nothing to them. Everything on social media is a trend. And unfortunately, we have seen gun violence trend, not only here, but globally, reminding us of the fragile nature of our peace. Zero tolerance for guns and drug abuse must not only be engaged and articulated by law enforcement, but across our society, in our institutions, in our homes, and indeed, yes, on our blocks. You know, Judge Judy has a saying that if it sounds too good to be true, it is normally not true. If the bulging pocket in your son or your grandson's or granddaughter or your best friend's pocket look like a gun, it's shaped like a gun, it bulges like a gun, my friends, it is most likely a gun. By closing our eyes and remaining silent, we are indirectly authorizing its indiscriminate and unlawful use. This is the stage at which, as parents, as guardians, as godparents, as teachers, as brethren and sistren on the block, we need to say to each other, this is not the right way to go. It will not, this will not have any happy ending. Get rid of it. And if you don't trust them to get rid of the guns, then ask them to hand it to you and you give it to your pastor if you don't want to surrender it to the police. We must find a way to reduce the number of guns in this society, even as the police do their job and the customs and others do their job to restrict their entry into Barbados. My friends, a shooting does not come like a sudden rain or an earthquake. There is usually notice, and the notice starts with the presence of a gun. As I speak to you today, there are many parents, or indeed there are many brethren and sisters on blocks and communities who know persons in possession of firearms. The presence of these firearms is going to cause problems. They're going to injure or kill people. Do not wait until it is too late. I remind you, as I say all the time, guns don't walk, guns don't talk, guns don't do none of them things on their own. Equally, the abuse of drugs is also something that we have to deal with as a society. We know the reality. Many start with trying a thing, trying a cigarette, trying a spliff. That is not even so much the problem, but it is when that trend leads to 4 and 6 and 8 a day, and when people start to move on to other drugs, drugs that take control of your mind, drugs that will embarrass you in the eyes of your peers, your friends, others, because you will be exploited and you'll be made to look foolish in front of everybody, and you ain't gonna have no capacity to fight back because the drugs have taken control of your mind. I remind us all the time, Usain Bolt, Sarah Williams, Dwight York, none of them could be where they are today if they did not take care of their minds and their body. If they drank and smoked in a way to affect their lungs, far less anything else, where would they be? Certainly not recognized by others globally. You cannot do 30 minutes of extra time in football if your lungs can't carry it. Who are you fooling? 30 on top of 90 minutes and your lungs can't hold it? Who are you fooling? Let us look at the athletes recently in Cricket World Cup who were just here. They needed to be at their sharpest and their fittest physically and mentally in order to win. My friends, we need to be real and be prepared to turn the corner as a country as it relates to this issue of guns and drug abuse. While many people can accept that life can be balanced when we do things in moderation, and perhaps that's the majority, and that's a good thing, but there's always danger with abuse. That is when you lose control and everything starts to unravel. We have to confront this issue of the illegal carrying and use of guns in our country and the escalating use and abuse of drugs and alcohol, not just drugs. We confront and talk about everything else in Barbados, everything else. So why not when we see signs of wrong? I'm appealing to you. Talk with who you can trust. Talk with who you can relate to. But always talk with who is causing the problem. Better to open your mouth now and talk than to hold your belly and bawl. I'm telling you. We cannot and must not take, therefore, justice also into our own hands. That is not our role. Don't let's get tied up with that. Justice is the duty of law enforcement, the brave members of the police service and others who are here to protect each of us and to uphold the law. Equally, our courts must judge who is guilty and who is not you nor me, unless we sit in front of a jury. Where we must step up individually and collectively is in our commitment to take back our common peace in Barbados and to show love and respect to one another. And let me give a few examples. Let's start with our language. Let us talk with each other, not to, not about, and certainly not at, because you know where that's going to end up. Let us truly see each other and talk with each other. Let us listen to one another, even if we disagree, and even if sometimes you dislike the body. Let us feel for and understand each other. We have had our own way in this country for resolving conflict for the most part. We've also learned the art, as Bajans, of living on a small rock together, even when we disagree. I urge us to continue on this Bajan way. This is our way. Don't let us allow foreign influences that would call for rapid escalation of disputes to a point where there's no coming back. We know better. We know how to walk away and let cool heads prevail. We've done it all along. This swiftness to anger will only reap despair and death. We have seen it play out elsewhere, if we are to be truthful. Do not bring it, my friends, into our way of life. This is not who we are, and we as Bajans know better. Our grandparents have always told us a word to the wise is sufficient. If you see your child with cash or with possessions that way out of sync from what they're working for or how much they're earning, do your own sniff tests. Tell them like it is. Tell them, I like where you got there. It looked good, but tell me where you get it from. And to the women and girls, I say to you, if you're receiving a gift from somebody, beware that you don't get caught up in something that you didn't bargain for, especially if the gift is out of the pay packet of the person that giving it to you. They can't afford it out of their pay packet. You know something wrong. You got to connect the dots, as the young people would say, the mathin'. Our world, our Caribbean, is full of examples of what will happen when we take in other people's values and other people's way of doing things. It is equally clear what will happen, my friends, if we do not commit as a nation to step up. We must remember that we learned as children and insisted on passing it down. And I can remind you now again, hard ears you won't hear, only way you can feel. We know better, and we know what will happen. And you cannot therefore be surprised if you know what will happen when you make certain choices. My friends, what am I telling you? If we see wrong, say something. If we can correct a child or a teenager, let me talk with them. Let me talk with them. And if we are not their parents or guardians or godparents or teachers, let me talk to those who are as well. Teach them also, our children, our teenagers, that sayings like the golden rules still matter. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These got to be practiced every day in every action that we do. It must become a habit. Let us teach them to work together, understanding that many hands make light work. This means left out the fussing and the fighting with each other, left out the shouting and the cursing, but stay together as friends. How we can work together as friends or as teammates. How we can work together as a community. How we can work together as a family. We must not, my friends, be divided by loyalty to groups or gangs that have nothing at all to do with Barbados. They wouldn't even know the difference between 6 roads and 6 men's. They wouldn't even know how to stir cuckoo or what cuckoo is, for that matter. What are we talking about? We have to remain faithful to who we are, because those things that they would want us to do are not who we are. Let us, my friends, therefore, respect life and respect each other. I've never seen a body riddled with bullets walk, yet. Never once. Once the body dead, they're dead. The only time a sharp blade can help you is when it is held by a surgeon. Not a person fueled by rage or a body wielding a cutlass like if they're gone mad. So I want us to pause and reflect. I have personally faced other times in my life when the challenge often seems daunting and indeed unlikely to overcome. And believe me when I tell you that I know what it is equally to confess that I shall walk, even if it is me, just me, and my God alone. Because there are some things that you have to be prepared to just do because it is the right thing to do. So as your leader, I pledge to take the first step. As I say to Bajans, let us walk the walk. Let us step up in every act as parents, guardians, godparents, to correct wrong from right, and to hold each other accountable in our jobs and in our relationships, our friendships, our workmates. Let us consciously cut out violent language in our families, among friends, and across groups, including the political groups and the sporting groups, including when we're liming or drinking. Let us resolve to express how we feel and talk it out with each other. I want to repeat myself. Let us tell each other how we feel, and let us talk it out with each other calmly. Let us give one another the benefit of the doubt. And if you feel you need to step back and take a cool head, step back and come back again. If wrong is still being perpetrated, then let us use the systems that we have, the police, the courts. You can even go for mediation and counseling. You can do arbitration, whatever it takes. And these fancy words don't mean formal people, because in every community and in every family, they've got somebody who will ask you to pray to a cooler head and to take it down, take it down. Let me deal with this tomorrow, take it down. We do not need only formal systems to be able to resolve conflict. I don't expect perfection, my people, because that belongs to the divine. We know that. But I do believe that the majority of us can do better, because we can and we know better, and we can claim back ground because we know better. And equally, we know the consequences of not doing better. It's a choice. And I say, let us do better. Let us step up together and work with one another to do better and to keep the common peace and to love and respect one another on this little rock we call home. We sing Bob Marley music all the time, and Bob never talked about denigrating a woman. Bob never talked about doing something to somebody to kill them off. We know better. I am up for the challenge. If you are, I'm asking you to step up and be counted. Sign your name on history's page as your first sign that you are committed to building the habits for yourself and nurturing the habits of others around you to make peace in what we do, in what we say, and in what we think, in our words, our deeds, and our thoughts. We are all leaders in some way, whether it is in the family or the workplace or the community or on the block. Find ways to let others know that this is your mission, our mission as a Bajan people. And I call now formally to let us all agree that our religious services this weekend, from Friday to Sunday, across the entire island, that those services send up prayers for those who have fallen and for the strengthening of the resolve of all of the rest of us living here for a peaceful Barbados, to build the common peace in Barbados. I saw the picture, the powerful picture today, of the three mothers in white as they carried their vigil out yesterday evening. Our thoughts and prayers are with you and all of the others who have lost family. But equally, I say that if we want to stand in solidarity with all of you, I ask now every Barbadian, each of us, to pause for 5 minutes this Saturday, July 20th at midday, for silent reflection wherever we are, whatever we are doing, other than, of course, the essential services. I know it is crop over, and I know it is Kiddies Kaduman. But it is important that we pause and reflect for 5 minutes, even in Kiddies Kaduman at midday, to send a signal that the majority of us want to build a common peace. We want a peaceful Barbados, and that we are committed to stepping up and putting in the hard work towards it. I equally ask our radio and television stations to pause for this 5 minutes period and to play appropriate music for reflection, to be able to encourage the building of a common peace in this country. My friends, I am saying to you, let our faith and our conscience guide us at this pivotal moment as Bajan people. And let the handful that believe that it is their duty to cause panic and to take life in this country know that they shall find somewhere else and go. But that is not who we are, nor who we want to become. Let us work with others to help those who may need encouragement or guidance, and even help those who simply, my friends, may not know better, because we can't assume that everyone knows better. In addition, I call on all summer camp leaders, because I know that school is out, to take time on Monday morning to speak to their kids in their care and to step up equally on this journey with us. The basic rules that we have always been taught must be reinforced in our children, whether in schools or summer camps or religious institutions, to ensure stronger values. They must live them, and we must teach them how they must use them. How to be honest, compassionate, caring, courteous, fair. I'm just mentioning only a few, but we all know what they are. Let the better angels, my friends of our spirit, guide us as Bajans, and know that when catch you, in pass you. Be wise. You all see me always speak to people using Bajan sayings that have been tried and tested across generations. That is because people understand what I mean when I say them. Not because I can't use different words. I choose to speak in this way because these sayings resonate with our people and have done so for generations. Let us therefore show why our ancestors were able to confront even greater challenges that we face now. Challenges then that were outside of their control, from slavery right back down. They ensured that resilience is part of our national DNA. We can rise to work together to determine what we do, what we say, and where we go as a people and as a nation. It is, my friends, it is, Bajans, our choice, not someone else's. These things, unlike the challenges faced by our ancestors like slavery, these things are in our control. Each of us can choose to do better. So let us step up. Whether we see, touch, engage, and participate. STEP, see, touch, engage, participate. Let us embody these principles, and let us become champions for the common peace in Barbados, and respect ourselves and respect each other. I am saying to you, this is the only way if we want to build a common peace. The choice is yours to step up and to make that difference. I pray that you do the right thing, each and every Bajan, and send that clear message. Thank you, and may God bless our country, may God bless our people, and may God give us the strength and the capacity to discern right from wrong and to do the things that we know we need to do to maintain the way of life that we cherish so much. We will not surrender to a handful. Thank you.
My country to me is the children's laughter and genuinely loving each other. That is my country to me. It is the air I breathe, and I'm proud to be born here, and the love and beauty that surround us, we share it day by day. That is my country to me.
Still to come on CBC NewsNight, Jamaica's Prime Minister commends the Hanover Police for their effective crime-fighting strategy. Time to turn our attention now to sports as we're joined this evening by Mark Seal. Mark, good evening.
Good evening. We're going to start with the Olympics with triathlete Matthew Wright already in Europe, along with 400-meter runner Sade Williams. The other two athletes on Team Barbados for the Paris Olympic Games have also arrived in that part of the world to continue preparations. Speaking during Sunday's The People's Business talk show on CBC TV8, the BOA's senior office administrator, Gail Craig-Archer, said swimmer Jack Kirby arrived in France, while sprinter Tristan Evelyn touched down in Italy last night.
Jack Kirby, he just arrived at his training camp in Mohouse. His flight was late, so we had to make changes to his flight in London. So the coach ended up going ahead of him. The coach got there about 11:30, and Jack got there just about 20 minutes ago. And this is on Paris time, so you do the 6-hour time difference. Tristan arrived in Venice, Italy about 2 hours ago, and she is going to be there training with Shadi up until I think the 25th of this month before she then heads off to the village.
Meanwhile, Wright, who is in Wales, says he has already switched his training to prepare for a midweek triathlon.
We've changed the structure just a little bit as the game. My race is going to be on a Tuesday, while usually I tend to race on a weekend in a normal season. So we've kind of readjusted the week a bit so that I can get as much training in as possible and be ready for a Tuesday race as opposed to usually a Saturday race. So it's probably more a touch change in schedule. But I think the content of what I'm doing is pretty similar. I think a lot of the advice I was given, last year when I was close to qualifying was don't go there and try to rewrite the script, do what you were doing at this level. Because I think a lot of people, obviously you're trying to do things to fine tune everything and be as best as you can. But, I don't really say a lot of people try to get just that bit too far and end up either getting sick or getting injured before the game. So we're really kind of aware of that. So we're trying to keep it almost as normal as I'm used to. But at the same time, we're just trying to push it that little few percent more so that I make sure I'm in my, career best fitness come July 30th.
Olympic Games analyst Michael Jules noted that outside of Williams, the realistic goals of the other athletes will not be to medal.
Top 20 for Matthew Wright. I think that's a realistic goal for him. For Kirby, it might be the same thing to finish in the top 20 in his event. It's going to be a little tough for Tristan Evelyn, but I believe the goal for her may be to get out of that first round and see where she goes. Her last outing at the Olympics, she only made it. She only had one run, and that was in the first round. So I think a realistic goal for her would be to get out of the first round and proceed.
And the first vice president of the Athletics Association of Barbados, Dr. June Cattle, urged the Barbadians to look beyond the medals.
I think that all the Barbadians need to do is put as much Bajan energy, positive Bajan energy, because we have the other kind. We heard it. But positive Bajan energy. We want every ounce of positive Bajan energy behind those athletes. They're just two. One chance at a time, one step at a time. Can you not support them all the way? I am willing to support them fully all the way. And their best effort is well done for me. And we expect the best from them. And we know they'll give us all they have. I've seen it before. I've been there before. And I don't know who hasn't been there. But you need to be there when the athlete gives everything they have for this ultramarine and gold. So you better keep your comments positive. You better be encouraging. And if it doesn't go well, you better help to dust them off and get them ready for the next one.
Switching now to cricket, where Barbados on the 19s have drawn with the Leeward on the 19s in Series 2 of the CWI two-day Rising Stars Championship match in St. Vincent. On this, the final day at Arnottsville playing field, the Leewards declared their second innings on 222 for 9, with Nathan Seeley, the Barbados captain, taking 4 for 30. The Barbados on the 19s chasing 232 for victory, were 203 for 4 when the match ended. Kyle Jordan top scored with 61. So scores in the match. Leewards on the 19s 90 and 222 for 9. The Barbados on the 19s 81 and 203 for 4. Switching out to netball, where Barbados finished second at the Youth Netball World Cup qualifier, losing to Jamaica in the final last night in Guadeloupe. In a clash of the only two undefeated teams, the Barbados under-21s went down by 25 goals, 54-29. Now, despite that defeat, Barbados under-21s still qualify for the World Cup in Gibraltar next year, as the top 3 teams have earned their spots. Joining Barbados and Jamaica will be Trinidad and Tobago, who defeated Grenada in the third-place playoff 61-39. Now we'll have a report on the Barbados team homecoming in tomorrow's Sports Night. That's the first half in sports. When we come back, we still have that big football final from last night.
Right, Mark, thank you. We'll take a break and we're coming back with tonight's business report. In business, Minister of Agriculture in Delaware is dispelling rumors there's a glut of chicken on the island. In fact, he has called those stakeholders who are pushing this narrative to meet him at the negotiation table. Mr. Ware says no chicken was imported for the recently concluded ICC T20 Men's World Cup.
We had stopped bringing in chicken wings because of bird flu. Given the fact that there was an ease and we were able then to get some chicken wings were brought in again, but not at the same level that we used to bring it in. I think previously it was well in excess of 4 containers. What they brought in was about 2 containers. Possibly will go up to 3 next shipment. But that in itself could not have created any glut. So the information was quite misleading. It's quite unfortunate.
However, Mr. Ware says there were some whole chickens brought in over last year's Christmas period to supplement what was being produced, but weren't completely sold out. He says he now has to meet with stakeholders to get an update on that matter. The Barbados Consumer Empowerment Network is satisfied with the Central Bank of Barbados' launch of the mandatory market conduct guidance for commercial banks and finance companies. And Executive Director Maureen Holder hopes the guidelines will help consumers understand how to go about their business and become less frustrated with the commercial banks. She was speaking following the launch in the Central Bank's Grand Salle.
One of the things that I've noticed is that the central bank focus on the AML regulation, especially the counterterrorism aspect of it. But what we would have wanted at BCEN is for them to focus more on the know your customer part of it, because that's where most of the frustration comes from consumers. But it's a step, as I said, in the right direction. It's only the beginning. I hope that many Barbadians will get a hold of the guidelines, read them, and understand them for themselves. We certainly at BCEN will be going through those guidelines thoroughly, and where needed, and we have to use them to defend customers' interests, we certainly will do so.
Time now for tonight's trading report.
In Jamaica, Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 778,196 units was the volume leader, followed by Victon Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares and Jamaica Stock Exchange. In Trinidad and Tobago, Ansamacal Limited was the volume leader with 100,034 shares changing hands for a value of Trinidad and Tobago $6,352,159.35, followed by Massey Holdings Limited. And here in Barbados, Epley Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund was the volume leader, trading 462 shares at Barbados 55 cents each, and they were followed by Cape Shepherd and Company Limited and Goddard Enterprises Limited.